Although Leopold once said, "Conservation is a state of harmony between men and land." Mr. Leopold was throughout his life at the forefront of the conservation movement and is widely acknowledged as the father of wildlife conservation in America. He's probably best known for his book, A Sand County Almanac. In honor of his dedication to conservation, a foundation was formed, and part of that foundation is an annual recognition of private landowners who practice responsible land stewardship and management. As a result, congratulations are in order for Jo and Jim Stanko. They are the proud recipients of the 2010 Aldo Leopold Conservation Award in Colorado. And in the Stanko family, practicing responsible land stewardship and management is just the tip of the conservation iceberg. The Stanko Ranch has been in existence since 1907, when Jim's grandfather sold his saloon and bought 160 acres and started a grain farm.
In 1907, he decided he didn't want to be a saloon owner in Walsenburg anymore, and he started looking for ranches, and the opportunity came evidently to buy the first parcel of the first 160 acres here in Steamboat Springs, which he purchased in 1907. And he actually purchased it from the son. This was the son of the founder of Steamboat Springs homestead. By the time he was finished purchasing land, the place was approximately 720 acres.
Jim, along with his wife Jo, are now the third generation of Stankos to continue the family's legacy of land stewardship. And together they manage and operate the family's remaining 640 acres. Over the years, Jim and Jo's management and operation style evolved into what one might call innovative conservatism, as they've kept the conservation approaches passed from one generation to the next, while also exploring and implementing new cutting-edge approaches to enhance and improve their operation.
In '79, the government came up with what they called the Conservation Reserve Program. We decided that was the opportunity to get out of grain farming, and we went strictly to a cattle operation, which we are today, a cow-calf operation. We put about 160 acres into the Conservation Reserve Program. And then when that came out of the 10-year commitment several years ago, then we started working on ways to make this land more productive rather than grain farming, and to put it to better conservation use. So what we did, we worked very closely with the Routt County Soil Conservation District.
That partnership, along with many others the Stankos have forged, has allowed them to implement a variety of conservation practices, not only on the land coming out of CRP, but throughout their entire operation.
We cross-fenced a lot of that area so we could run cattle through it. We replanted a lot of it into alfalfa so that it becomes a crop that we can use because we can feed our cattle with it. The highly erodible land, instead of putting it back into production, we fenced it off, and we've kind of let it go back into a natural sort of habitat. Some of the sagebrush is coming back into it. It's providing wildlife habitat.
A few other entities and organizations they've partnered with include the City of Steamboat, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and the Yampa Valley Land Trust.
In 1980, the City of Steamboat Springs decided they needed to expand their sewer plant, build a new sewer plant. And they didn't want to do it because they knew the town was going to expand. They wanted to put the sewer plant further away from town. We started dealing with the City of Steamboat. They started coming in with the fact that at this time it was kind of new, was to go with land treatment, to use the effluent and the sludge on land. Through these agreements, then, we get to use that water basically free. That enabled us then to put all this bench right out here, this 35 acres, into irrigated meadowland.
Their partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service began some years ago as well. Jim started working with NRCS right about the time he took over the operation. NRCS's technical and financial assistance programs assisted the Stankos in the installation of many of their headgates and many of their springs.
There was quite a bit of funding available at that time, especially for irrigation projects. We built several head gates down on our meadow, and then the other thing that we started doing was developing springs. Every spring we own has been developed with some sort of financial assistance.
The other significant partnership is with the Yampa Valley Land Trust, who provided the funding for their conservation easement.
By this time, the neighbors had already subdivided the meadow right next to us, and so we thought that this would be the best way for us to have at least some ground.
And that's emotional. Still, when they said they were going to put that in there, there's a place up in this next field on the next bench. I wanted to pick the house up and put it there so I didn't have to look at that, you know. And it was a hard thing.
It's a hard thing indeed to watch the progressive decline of such pristine agricultural land as it moves from true ag production to bricks and mortar. The Stankos are socially minded community activists and have served in many leadership positions with organizations including Colorado Cattlemen's, the State Board of Veteran Affairs, Colorado's Education Association, Farmers Union, Farm Bureau, their County Museum Board, and the Weed Advisory Board, as well as many others. The one event that brings them the most pleasure would have to be their annual branding event.
Tomorrow we'll have 50 people, from the extension agent to the banker to the chief of police. We know of about 9 people coming tomorrow that have never been to a branding before.
They either rolled up their sleeves and pitched in, or just had a few kind words to say.
And I think one of the greatest things that they did, beyond the conservation aspects of the ranch, where they've improved water systems here. This meadow you're looking at behind me is under conservation easement. That was the second one in the county done with local funds. The thing they have done more than anybody else is invite the urban public to the ranch to see what ranchers really do. And I think the true measure of conservation is not how many acres have been preserved, although that's important, it's the relationships that they build.
When asked, however, about the next chapter, there is hopeful hesitation.
Ideally, our son would love to come home and ranch, and his wife would love to come home. Practically, there's no way. The land values in Colorado across the state for ag land have risen. But when you live in a resort area like this, they're astronomical. So he can't afford to buy it. He can't afford to inherit it. And we can't afford to gift it to him. We're working on a plan to ensure that he has 75 to 100 acres of it.
And then Jim and Jo explained what this award means to them.
It shows that especially here in this area, in this valley, ranchers aren't all bad, and that you know that we are really true conservationists. It shows that we're walking the talk.
The Stanko family, a shining example of land stewardship and community service. They're writing yet another great American story.